Hello, everyone. Honorable management of the college, Dihad, Honorable Okam University. My name is Abdirisak Salat. I'm one of the humanitarian and sustainable students of Dihad College. I'm here and submitting my presentation, final presentation of the defense thesis that I have studied, the case study or assessment of causes and effects of droughts in Somaliland, a case study of Togdale region. And contextual background of the study, this study defines a drought not merely as a meteorological deficit, but as a socio-economic collapse. Meteorological drought is defined by the non-realization of rain onset and sporadic perception of pattern as currently observed by FAO Swalem 2025. And on the other hand, socio-economic drought occurs when the physical shortage of water affects the supply and demand of economic goods. The Somali territory has experienced both and has felt consequences for the past decades with a great humanitarian disaster of international magnitude demanding exorbitant intervention to rebuild the resiliency of rural pastoralism and subsequent international displaced persons. And global and continental context, globally, climate change has rendered arid and semi-arid increasingly uninhabitable. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC 2024, identifies Africa as the continent most vulnerable to climate variability despite contributing the least to global carbon emission. The phenomenon observed in Somaliland is part of the global pattern of desertification affecting the Sahelian belt, where climate shocks are displacing millions, fueling with the UN themes, the urbanization of poverty. Regional context, Horn of Africa and conflict nexus. Horn of Africa is arguably the most drought insecure region globally. The ecosystem is transboundary. The failure of the good rains in Somaliland, invariable mirror condition of eastern Ethiopia, Somali region, and northern Kenya. In Somali region, Ethiopia bordering Togdel, recurrent drought have intensified resource competition. Drying the Shabelle and Genel river basins has forced pastoralists to migrate towards Somaliland. And drought situation analysis for 2024 revealed a tripling of drought events compared to historical coverage. SODMA 2024, the study in Somaliland, the environmental crisis is exacerbated by weak governance in rangeland management. In 15 of June 2022, report by the National Disaster Preparedness and Food Reservation NADFOR Authority indicated that the severity of the crisis is highest in Togdel, Sol, and Sanak. This region form of drought belt in the country, with over 1.2 million people projected to be affected across Somaliland, 6 regions. The crisis has overwhelming national capacity. The top priority needs water 70%, 21% to food, 9% of health, indicated systematic failure of basic life support system, not for 2024. In Togdel region, particularly the district of poor service epidemic, the crisis of the region faces as a dual threat natural factors such as unpredictable rain onset and behavior and automatic factor whereby communities are challenged by overgrazing and the cutting of acacia tree for charcoal. Pastoralism and the immense presence in the Horn of Africa. Pastoralism has historically served as the ecological and economic backbone of the region. Drylands drought were historically cyclical, once a decade event, allowing for a head and range recovery. Today, drought events in Somaliland have tripled compared to historical average SODMA 2024, shifting from periodic shocks to chronic overlapping. Tragic shift from rural insufficiencies to urban aid dependency. Over 810,000 people required emergency assistance crisis took their Sol and Sanak regions. The study revealed not for 2024. Pastoralism was self-sufficiency, asset depletion, and some urban dependence. Investigating the root cause and cascading effects of recurrent droughts. Drivers, number one, identifying the drivers. Number two, assess the impacts. Number three, formulate the solution. Forming drought as a socio-political and livelihood collapse, sustainable livelihood framework explains how the destruction of natural capital, water and posture trigger a devastating domino effect, ultimately destroying natural capital or human, financial and social capital. Political ecology theory challenges the view of drought as a pure natural disaster. It attributes extremely vulnerability to political marginalizing, weak governance and unchecked environmental management. The study interviewed or the survey reached 199 livelihood 199 persons who live in these four IDPs: Al Hussein, 18 May, and Barwaqo Ala Sulaiman. Locations were here. It was equal participation except of the Ala Sulaiman, which was conducted 49 persons responded. A displaced population defined by female leadership and systematic barriers, 74.88 female-headed households. The crisis has fractured the family unit, 47.74 are window or diverse, while 27.14 are managed alone because husbands migrate with remaining livestock. 73.87 of that interviewed female leaders, their literacy rate, nearly three quarters of household head have no formal education, creating massive barrier to entering the urban workforce for navigating air system. 39.2% of the new arrivals, the displacement is active and ongoing, with nearly 40% arriving between 2021 to 2025. The rapid dissemination of traditional pastoralism with wealth over 5 years. Pure pastoralism dropped being the primary income for 63.82 of households to just 34.17, now drastically reduced. 5 years ago, the camels that has been depletion, mean ownership per household, was camels were 9.13, goats and sheep were 59.94, and 5 years after, which is now, camels are 1.45, goats and sheep are 7.25. Between 40 to 53% of all livestock losses are directly attributed to intervention and drought, forcing 11.56 of the population to survive begging. Banning the future environment to survive the present today. 69.95% of the respondents know that cutting trees for charcoal has a major impact on their environment. The desperation. Despite this knowledge, 53.77% now use charcoal burning as their main survival strategy. The rationale. Environmental degradation is driven by extreme poverty, not ignorance. 76.38 state they cut trees because they have no other way to buy food. Severe depletion sacrifice health and next generation is education. Food insecurity, 70.35 of the adults restricted their intake to just 2 meals a day, relying on expensive and unusable, unsustainable water track, 52.26. Child malnutrition, 24.62% of households observed significant weight loss or wasting children under 5 as severe red flag for acute malnutrition. 26 lost futures. 26.63 of households report child dropping out of school in the last 2 years, primarily because the families simply afford the fees. 28.14. An overwhelming safety net leaves the vast majority, about 82.91% received no aid. An overwhelming majority received humanitarian assistance in the last 12 months. 33.67 report aid agencies never visited their area. Further, 60.3 do not request help from local authorities because they don't know where to go. Scarcity breeds conflict. 34.17% of respondents have witnessed recent conflicts. The primary driver, 25.6%, is not traditional clan dispute, but fight over the distribution of severity limited aid. Total livelihood collapse driven by the Environmental degradation trap, economic death. The region has experienced a permanent loss of livestock capital, forcing transition. The core paradox: communities are shocked in survival environmental degradation trap, forced to destroy very ranch land. Systematic isolation, discount exists between vulnerable population, general risk without intervention, high rate of child wasting and school dropouts guarantee permanent erosion. Structural solution for resilience and deep borrow. 33.67. The top community requested permanent water infrastructure to end the craving resilience. Vocational training 28.14 skill demand for youth to divert income away from rent independence. Livestock restocking 40.2%. Essential conditional support for the massive segment of the population desperate to return to naturalism. Targeted aid, target transparent aid distribution that reaches remote area paired with reforestation to heal degradation ecosystem. Thank you very much.